So at a larger level, taking the helicopter up 40,000 feet, there are transition economies who had a very bad experience and broke out of communism and start to evolve, and things were going well. But now with the crisis in the West, are they starting to doubt market economies, starting to lose what you might call desire for democracy in some of these places because of the stresses this crisis has produced?
Yeah, of course one has to be careful here. We have to put it in perspective. These countries had a tremendous institutional evolution in the last 20 years. No other part in the world have had such a comprehensive institutional reform process, and they went from centrally planned economies, with dictatorships, to what is today, well-functioning democracies. We're talking now about Central Europe, and also quite effective markets in many ways. Maybe markets that work better than in Western Europe. So we have, I mentioned Poland before, as a beacon of light. So they have achieved a lot. So whatever we see now has to be put in that perspective. Mm-hmm. But there are some worrying signs, and there are, we find in the survey that the support for democracy, the support for market in those countries, the countries that have come the furthest, is weakening. And that support, again, that weakening of support may be a reflection of sort of what we call an anti-incumbency. It's a bit like, anything that happens to a country or to a government in the country is blamed on the government, whoever is in power. And there's a little bit of that here, I think. So you sort of tend to criticize the system in which you are living. So in the system which you think you are living in. And that, I think, is somewhat we see in here. But the interesting part of that is if you take countries further away and who have not made so much progress, take countries in the former Soviet Union, the countries like Kazakhstan, Ukraine, so on, and Armenia, particularly in this survey, they think that the reason why they were affected so much by the crisis is that they have not developed enough of markets and not enough of democracy. So, this is again, the perception of what system you think you're living in is extremely important. So we have to watch this very carefully, but hopefully this is somewhat transitory. So once they get out of the crisis, these things will die down. But still, we have to watch it very carefully.
And when you look at the crisis, you mentioned that the GDP was down, but the people were down even further. What structural errors were made? What kinds of policies were tolerated or implemented that led to that exacerbated impact on households? And how would you suggest reform?
Yes, I think I should be fair going back to what happened in Eastern Europe and recognize that I think we didn't put enough emphasis on the social dimension of this change and of building social safety nets that could help protect people. Of course, help protect them against the structural changes, but particularly maybe help them when the crisis hit like this. And so we didn't have enough in place. Western Europe has quite a bit of this, and it seemed to work well. Western Europe, the countries in Eastern Europe that have come the furthest, particularly the countries in Central Europe, they have these social safety nets reasonably in place. But when you go further east, it's really a weakness of the transition process. Also, the financial system. Again, we think that maybe financial system fed asset bubbles, not only in Western Europe, but maybe particularly in some Eastern European countries. Real estate prices went through the roof and so on. Of course, these are downsides of the financial system, but what we really see in this survey is that the financial system has a very important role in protecting people against these kind of shocks. And what you see is that if you don't have that, you're forced to go to friends and relatives for funding or for support in these times. And of course, there are such networks, and we see that they have some impact, but they're much less effective in protecting people. The consumption shock, if you want, the impact on people's lives in consumption terms is much stronger.
This can be spread through time in the absence of a functioning financial bank.
So again, we should be careful about criticizing financial system, blanket criticism, we have to see that the financial system and the banks have a very important role to play.